He mentioned that he was open to looking at developing nuclear energy sources. I'm in perfect agreement with that. I think that'd be very beneficial for this country. France uses it. They've been running their country on it for years. They do very well by it. So we do have alternatives. Hybrids are available. There are electric cars being developed.
After years
we're
of
getting
blocking
there,
legislation from Republicans.
but it's going to take. But the market will get us there. The market will get us there because demand for oil is not what it was.
Demand for oil is
2-3 years ago.
It's not.
No one's buying gas guzzlers anymore.
And how many oil spills will happen
anymore.
But come on. But let's be real.
We had one spill.
We've
in the
had
last
one
20
spill
years.
since when was the first?
Years.
Yeah, exactly. Since the Exxon Valdez.
But look how big it is, though.
It's
look
big
at the problem
and
we're
it's
having
considerable,
now.
and I've acknowledged that the politics of this favor your side of the debate. But the simple fact of the matter is, it should not prevent us from continuing to do
it. Doesn't change the demand, and we're going to have to get that energy from somewhere without breaking the backs of the middle class and without taxing people who can't afford it into oblivion. So, our economy depends on the oil. I think we should get it right where it is instead of having to go to a hostile regime for it.
Right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. You know what states like Florida do in terms of stopping drilling on their shores. I think it should be very interesting.
All right, we're going to conclude that first segment right there. Thank you so much for joining us at Across the Aisle, where you get politics from a different point of view. We welcome you to join us as we come back. And welcome back to Across the Aisle, where you get politics from a different point of view. Once again, I'm Saquon Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host John Minza, James Davidman, and today's special guest is Javier David. I'm going to start this segment off with you, John. With 60% of the nation in agreement with the Arizona immigration bill, how will this play out in politics going forward?
Well, I completely understand why these numbers are so huge with the economy being where it is. Arizona with unemployment between 9 and 10%, and being that they found that illegal immigration, there are about 500,000 illegal immigrants in Arizona. I can completely understand why American nationals would, go with any type of law to limit any illegal immigration. However, I think there are other things at play here. I think this law, firstly, is slightly immoral. I think police officers are not going to be trained enough to find illegal immigrants just plainly out of plain view. What is to say someone's an immigrant? The color of their skin, the way they talk, the way they walk. I think there's no way to enforce this law. Secondly, I think this law is something we saw in 2004 with the Republican Party in Arizona, where they tried to suppress the large Latino voters because they vote predominantly Democrat. And I think this is a strategy, a brainchild of Karl Rove, President Bush's right-hand man, where he tried to suppress, the voting of Democrats.
I mean, he makes a good point. I mean, how are they going to enforce this bill, James and Javier, going forward?
Well, illegal immigrants can't vote, so I don't really think Karl Rove had anything to do with this.
But I think it's a tactic to,
unless of course they're organized by Acorn, but we won't go.
But all Arizona did was pass a bill that enforces the laws that are already on our books, that are already on our federal books.
But it was there were intimidation tactics there, though.
Well, with this, I mean, immigrants have to carry documents.
But to have an inordinate amount of police officers at a ballot station asking people for their IDs, I think that is a tactic to try and limit people coming out, especially when they are minorities. Even if they are legal.
If you have your ID, you got to vote. So I'm not. Once again, I don't really see that as an intimidation tactic. I see it more as a tactic to prevent voter fraud.
Well, let's deal with it as it pertains to today. In today's time, I mean, I completely understand the point John is making, but on the other side, Javier, I mean, this is almost reminiscent of what Nazi Germany did with the Jewish population during World War II.
I thought the Jews were trying to get out of Germany, not trying to get in there.
I think a lot of people, there's a tremendous amount of hyperbole surrounding this bill. Kristallnacht and comparisons to Nazi Germany being one of them. But I want to rattle off some statistics for you. Mexico, the first 3 months of this year, 3,365 people have died. The numbers in 2009 were 22,743 deaths, which was compared to 2,837 deaths in 2007.
This is Mexico?
This is Mexico. Okay, because people are talking about this bill, but they're not understanding the context. And the context is there's a tremendous, horrendous, horrific drug war currently underway in Mexico. Mexico is basically transformed itself into a borderline failed narco state. And this violence and the struggle between the government's forces and the narco traffickers are spilling across the border into places like Arizona, into places like Texas, into places like Nevada, and the border states. That is triggering governments to do what the federal government should have been doing all along, which is securing the border. The government hasn't done its job. The state of Arizona has had to come in and place parameters around basically taking up the federal government's responsibility, first and foremost. Secondly, there is a legitimate constitutional concern regarding racial profiling, and I will acknowledge that. I think that this is a very legitimate concern. How will this bill be enforced? But let's face facts. Arizona would never have had to do this had the federal government been doing what it gets paid to do, namely securing the borders.
So do you think that other states should incorporate this law?
It depends. I mean, each state will have a solution or come up with a practical policy remedy or recommendation based on what is best for its population. For Arizona, this was a difficult choice. I don't begrudge the governor for doing what she did. I think she's done, given the circumstances, given the state of affairs in Mexico, and the fact that the Mexican president can now come here this very same week and denounce the United States for doing what he should be doing, which is securing his country and securing his end of the border. We have the United States of America basically kowtowing to China and apologizing to the United States, to the United Nations and China for the basis of not securing its borders and not doing what it gets paid to do.
But this law does not secure the borders. All it does is identify those individuals who are
in a lot of places. But let's put it into context, though. Over the last several years, much of the illegal immigration, the impetus of that was due to the fact that people were coming here seeking economic opportunities, but the economic opportunities are not here. What you're seeing are a lot of people coming in, and they're violent. They're criminals. They're narco traffickers.
I think we can all agree that there is a serious illegal immigration problem in this country. We've had lax enforcement for years. Once again, Arizona's only law right now enforces the federal mandate that we already have. And it's not going to be a case of all the hyperbole that you're saying. I mean, you're not going to see illegal immigrants being rounded up and racially profiled to the point where constitutional liberties start getting trampled over. It's basically it's deterrence by enforcement. Illegals now know that they don't have a free pass to just be illegal in that state. And when you consider the costs of subsidizing an illegal immigration population of 500,000 people, they're tremendous. Healthcare costs surpass $1 billion a year. You've got legal costs, court costs, prison costs, because there is a criminal element that comes because we're talking about drugs and kidnapping and coyote and people smuggling. So there's a criminal element as well that we pay for. We're talking about our education system. They go to school. They go to public schools. Don't pay taxes.
I think the money.
It costs way too much to subsidize.
I don't disagree with that, but this is a land that which is built based off of our policy on immigration and how we have opened our arms to individuals who are out there and willing to do jobs that, frankly, a lot of Americans aren't going to be able to do.
And we have a legal process. And we have a legal process. I mean, in my individuals you're describing.
But I understand that. But in order for you to become legal, there has to be some sort of interaction with this country first. I mean,
you apply for a visa.
You apply for a visa.
Let me throw this question back at you, James, and you can reply. Now, let's take it a different direction. The premise of it is basically, is against Hispanics. Now, if you throw in the fact that Obama has put in Sotomayor into the Supreme Court, you also throw in the fact that Kagan may potentially be a Supreme Court nominee. So, and there's this sort of perception of, what a sexual preference may be. The Republicans may potentially have lost, because black support is going to be with Obama, period. So they may have potentially lost black support, Hispanic support and potentially, you know, our
I'm not certain about that.
homosexual.
Hispanics vote. I mean, about 40-something% of Hispanics typically vote Republican.
No, I know, but the idea of
the
it
last
is,
Republican Congress we had tried to push an amnesty bill through as a result of trying to, you know, appease the Latin voting bloc, the Latino voting bloc. Both parties are going to be competing for these voters, and I don't think that you can just say that they're going to side with one over the other. I mean, they're still very much up for grabs. They're very much in play.
Listen, I am the child of Hispanic immigrants. My family came here legally.